One of my favorite characters of all time. Probably saw this character in the thumbnail, Otto from Rocket Power, bruh. Rocket Power actually sort of helped usher in that new skateboard, BMX. I think in that era, that's when you had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater video games, you had McDonald's skateboard toys, you had Rocket Power. Like, skate culture was, I feel like, you know, and it had a real big renaissance moment at that point. Otto was one of those, you know, very big figures at that point in time. It was a huge cartoon at that time. I loved Rocket. What's up YouTube? TP Locks here, bringing you guys another video. Yes, today I'm gonna be sharing with you guys 5 cartoon characters that you probably didn't realize had dreadlocks. If you're interested in that video, stay tuned. Per usual, you guys, if you're not done so already, please hit that subscribe button right now. Have hit that subscribe button already. Definitely want to make sure you hit that like button as well. Also, big shout out to Nathaniel Richards. Nathaniel Richards is the official first member of our Lock family membership, you guys. Those of you guys who need more details, look in the link in the description to find out how to become a member of our channel or in our community tab, okay? Some great perks for you members. It's just a way to support our channel and some of the upcoming projects that we have, okay? But enough of that. Let's get into the video. Now, you guys, this was actually a very fun video idea that I had because I was just thinking in my mind, you know, some of the projects that I have in mind are going to be aimed towards representation, creating more representation in the cartoon space, the animated space, the book space, whatever. But as I was sort of doing research and, you know, compiling stories and doing analytics, all that mumbo jumbo that you guys probably don't care about, I realized that there was actually some decent representation in that cartoon space already. We all know about characters like Static Shock. Static Shock was infamous for his dreadlocks. He's probably one of the more popular characters with locks, but there's a few that were right under our nose that we might not have actually realized, okay? So then we'll give you guys this list. All right, the first person I gotta mention you guys is Sideshow Bob. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with Sideshow Bob, he was basically this really lunatic character in The Simpsons. He was nuts. He was basically the arch enemy of Bart Simpson, okay? One thing that I noticed when I was looking at these cartoons, you know, The Simpsons in particular, they actually had a lot of natural hair representation. It's a little weird though, you know, when you got cartoons that present sort of whitish, but they're yellow skin. But you got, you know, characters like Marge who have very clearly, you know, an afro textured hair. Even when you got her daughter, it's got like these, you know, it almost looks like an Afrocentric hairstyle with the spikes and everything. It's very weird. But Sideshow Bob, you guys, Sideshow Bob, the entire time I was watching as a kid, had dreadlocks. Now, I don't know how I missed this. I mean, again, it's probably one of those things where when you aren't a part of a community, it's almost like that car lot analogy. You know, as soon as you buy your car, you roll it off the lot, you see all versions of your car. The reason I probably didn't notice that he had locks was because I didn't have locks and that wasn't the thing that I was paying attention to. So, but Sideshow Bob actually has a dope set of locks. They actually look to be semi-freeform or almost wick style locks, which is really cool. Those of you guys who, you know, are constantly looking at a third level of things, you may analyze or want to look at this and be like, well, why did a character with locks have to be crazy? You know, I don't know. I'm not gonna go there. That is a third level analysis and question that you can ask, but I just think it's dope that there was a character under our nose the entire time that had locks. I think that's really cool. So yeah, Simpsons for natural hair just in general was dope, but gotta give love first to Sideshow Bob. Second character that we gotta give it up to is Donald Michael Thornberry from the Wild Thornberries, okay? It's funny, I play with my daughter all the time and I'll do this thing where anytime she does something that's stinky or nasty, I'll be like, Nigel Thornberry. Are you okay to let me poop on my own? Can I do that?
Well, I can though.
Let me smell that breath. Hold up. Let me get a ha-ha. Nigel Thornberry. That breath smell like I'd got. I have no idea why. I don't know. It makes sense to me. Donald Michael Thornberry, for those of you guys who didn't know or don't know, was basically the crazy kid, you know, the little crazy safari kid in the Thornberry show, the Wild Thornberry show. Now, again, we could do some third level analysis here on whether or not we appreciate the fact that the person with the locks on that show was basically like a Tarzan-esque crazy kid. Not crazy kid, but maybe developmentally challenged kid in some way. I don't want to be insensitive, so if you know exactly what's up with Donald Michael Thornberry, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. When I was growing up as a kid, he just seemed to be a little bit, you know, challenged. Intellectual in some ways, he was helpful in some ways, but for the most part, he was, you know, he was a little nutty. We could do that third level analysis if we want to, but again, this was a character that I grew up. I love watching Nigel Thornberry and the Wild Thornberries. Nickelodeon was actually on a tear back in, you know, in my childhood. You know, you had shows like SpongeBob, Rugrats, you know, It's Told by Ginger, all those shows. I really loved those shows, and this was no exception. The interesting thing about this character is because he was kind of considered like a Tarzan-esque character, I guess it made sense from a creative standpoint to give him locks, because he's obviously not going to be grooming his locks, though they do appear to be more of a semi-freeform style. Somebody's got to be doing his hair, somebody's got to be taking a crochet hook or something. I don't, you know, we can get into the details, I'm sure, but it was a dope set of locks. You know what I'm saying? I've seen locks like this in real life, and I've said, man, that's an amazing set of natural freeform locks. And that's exactly what Donald Michael Thornberry had. So gotta give him his props. You know, I gotta give Nickelodeon their props. They were definitely showing some representation early on, and you know, these first two characters were definitely white lockers, so maybe that's why it kind of went over our head that, you know, these were actually dreadlocks. But you know, they were lock characters, man, and we gotta appreciate it as a community. So salutes to Donald Michael Thornberry and the Wild Thornberries. Now, this third character, you guys, I'ma tell you, this show was another one from Nickelodeon. Probably one of my favorite characters of all time. I saw this character in the thumbnail, Otto from Rocket Power, bruh. Rocket Power actually sort of helped usher in that new skateboard, BMX. I think in that era, that's when you had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater video games, you had McDonald's skateboard toys, you had Rocket Power. Like, skate culture was, I feel like, you know, and it had a real big renaissance moment at that point. Otto was one of those, you know, very big figures at that point in time. It was a huge cartoon at that time. I loved Rocket Power. It was amazing. The interesting thing about Otto and his dreadlocks is that, again, it is also some very diverse representation of the people that are presenting locks to the mainstream public. This is not a black locker or an African-American locker. This is essentially someone who is Pacific Islander presenting this to the main public. People will have mixed signals with that, and again, does that count as the representation that we're looking for? I'll leave that to the comment section to decide whether or not it is sufficient. But when it comes to the impact that this cartoon had, when it came to just, like I said, its popularity, Otto was huge, and he was cool, and he was somebody that we all sort of, he was the McDonald's toy or the Burger King toy that you wanted when you went to the fast food restaurant. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wanted the Otto Rocket Power. This to be such a huge character, you guys, I gotta say, it's amazing to see that there was this sort of representation. And again, Nickelodeon was really on, I mean, I won't say that they weren't perfect, but Nickelodeon has some dope representation, you guys. I might have to go back in the archives and sort of look and see what was up, because Nickelodeon might be some I can watch today. All right, but character number 3, you guys, Otto from Rocket Power. Now, the next character we have that probably none of you guys are familiar with is Sid the Science Kid. Now, Sid the Science Kid wasn't something that I grew up watching. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I did sort of grow up in daycare a little bit, you know, even up to like those teen years. After school, you go to an after school program, you know, you got younger kids. The younger kids are sort of doing what they do. And oftentimes they'll be watching things on TV that you ain't got no business watching. I mean, Hamtaro, you know, a bunch of other bull, man. I don't know why Hamtaro really had to catch a stray just there, but I hate Hamtaro. Now, Sid the Science Kid, again, I think it's a PBS kids show. Essentially, it's just a kid that's, you know, going on random science adventures. For me, it was kind of like a kid version of Jimmy Neutron with just different adventures or whatever. But it was really cool to see and sort of, you know, discover that this was actually a cartoon character that had locks as well, especially when that demographic was those younger children. I think when you're showing younger children these hairstyles, it normalizes it at a very early age. I know a lot of times we talk about indoctrination, how it does start at that early age. When you're familiarizing these kids with these natural hairstyles early, the theory is that it does sort of, you know, diminish the mystique peak a little bit. Now, ironically enough, the kid probably didn't stop your classmate in elementary or middle school or whatever. It probably didn't stop them from asking, how do you wash your hair? Or can I touch it? Or, you know what I'm saying? It probably didn't stop some of that stuff, but it is pretty interesting to note that early cartoons, even on PBS Kids, found it okay to, show these hairstyles. Another interesting thing to note is this is a yellowed skin, sort of racially ambiguous character. At no point in the cartoon are you told that this guy is black or white or what. I'd say that anytime I saw a yellow character as a kid, I assumed that they were white. Even when I was a kid coming up, I ain't gonna lie to you, I thought, Otto from Rocket Power was white. I mean, again, it's just because as a kid, I didn't really have very much cultural nuance myself. I mean, I was growing up in an environment where it was like white people, black people, Mexicans, and Asians.
The power is yours.
When it came to these characters, oftentimes the lens that I looked at them was through that lens. Which category do they fit in? So Sid the Kid is a great character, you guys. One that I did not realize had locks, and one that I think you guys should know about. Now, the last character, you guys, character number 5 that we probably didn't realize had locks was Maurice, or number 9 from Kid Next Door. Kid Next Door, you guys, was another one of those cartoons that I feel like was a part of the very last great era of Cartoon Network. During the time Kid Next Door was airing, you also had shows like Ed, Edd n Eddy, Cow and Chicken, Powerpuff Girls, it's just a lot, Johnny Bravo, just a bunch of great shows. So it was an amazing era, right? And Kid Next Door actually did a great job of, being inclusive, having some great representation, and also featuring some natural hairstyles. Maurice actually is not the only person in the show with locks, which is amazing to me as well, but he was a character that I noticed because I'm a boy, Damon. Seeing someone actually presented with black skin with a hairstyle was something that actually, got my attention. But I think this character was dope. I think that the art style of Kid Next Door was dope. I think that the, sort of cultural nuances that they gave each character was dope. That they had like black families in Kid Next Door. Black families with natural hairstyles, with twists, with braids, all sorts of things. So, I gotta salute to Kid Next Door for having that inclusivity, having that representation, and having characters that are rocking natural hairstyle. And honestly, it's a huge step in the right direction. Ultimately, you guys, I think that when it comes to these cartoons, I think the aim of creating inclusive cartoons or things like this is to, create an environment where we destigmatize it. It's to create an environment where people are more familiar with it, or it's more normal. Did these cartoons necessarily accomplish the mission? I'm not so sure. I think you'd have to point to a couple problematic examples, when it comes to Sideshow Bob, the wild Nigel Thornberries, even characters like Tarzan. Oftentimes locks were juxtaposed to very wild children, or safari-esque characters. That being said, you also have the other representation from characters like Number 9, Static Shock, Otto, that are for the most part suburban kids that are rocking these hairstyles. Big question I would have to ask you guys is whether we think cartoons help or hinder the inclusive culture that we're looking to cultivate within the lock community to the broader public. As I was looking at these lists, it was pretty eye-opening to me that I didn't even realize these characters had locks. Is that a miss on the cartoon's part? Should there be more mention of the locks? Because the reality of it is, we saw all these cartoon characters, all of us saw these cartoon characters, and we still dealt what we dealt with as it terms to the, the stigma, the negative connotation around dreadlocks. We're still currently dealing with things like the Crown Act that are trying to reverse hair discrimination, natural hair discrimination particularly. So, I definitely want to hear you guys' feedback. I enjoy doing this because a lot of these cartoons are cartoons that I really loved, you guys. Hopefully you guys have some more examples that you can share with me so I can go look up. I know that there were some that I did not mention. There's a lot of characters in anime. Like I said, Static Shock was not featured in this video. He was mentioned, but he's probably one of the more popular ones, you guys. But yeah, definitely, I would love to hear you guys' feedback, answers to questions, anything. Leave them in the comment section, you guys. It's been TP Locks, signing out.
What's going on, TP Locks fam? I go by the name of Backpack Beatz. If you enjoy the music and all the beats on my man TP's channel, make sure you show some love over to my channel also. I'm there 2 days a week. Every Monday, we're making beats. And every Thursday, I DJ the No More Free Beat Show, showing love to everything underground. So if you like music, if you like beats, or if you like dope vibes, definitely check my channel out. It's real dope. Big shouts out to my man TP for giving me the platform, and we out. Appreciate it.